the entire planet, the, the ruler of all things web. I mean, come on, his last name is Webb. Come on now. Give it up for Derek Webb. Let's go.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Always love the intros. And guys, welcome. Always like when you guys are here to join us. And again, just talk about some fun, new stuff. Not even always new, just to have discussion and conversation. All right, I'm back now.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
So I think my my audio software literally just updated in the beginning of our training. I promise that's the last interruption we're going to have. So the biggest thing that we like with all these things, guys, and these opportunities to just chat is it's opportunities, one, for you guys to get insight, to learn about new features, learn about current features, learn about features that have been around for 4 or 5 years that you didn't know were there. But it's also an opportunity for myself and for my team to learn more about what you guys are facing in the field and some of the challenges you guys have. Obviously, you have the ability to talk to tech support and things like that. But my team, my goal, we're here to educate you as an industry better. And the only way we can do that better is we know the challenges you guys face, day in and day out. So obviously our goal today is to talk about the Wattbox ecosystem and how you guys can best utilize that on your job, right? How you can take advantage of some of the killer features that are there, the killer hardware options that are there, and deploy these things appropriately. So real quick though, before we get going, just if you haven't been able to figure this out yet, I just had some audio problems. I was just clicking on this right here. If you have any audio problems throughout, or if you can't hear me right now, make sure you use your Zoom toolbar there to go in and adjust your audio properties appropriately. But more importantly, probably most importantly, is how do you guys interact with me? Obviously, you don't have hot microphones because there are 95 of you right now, and I can't manage all 95 of you trying to go and ask questions at one time. So we're using this fun Q&A feature there in Zoom. So if you guys have questions, feedback, please feel free to use that Q&A feature. I've already gotten a few come through there about, you guys hanging out in Cabo San Lucas, which is always fun. Feel free to use that Q&A feature in Zoom to ask those questions appropriately. That's going to be the best way for you guys to interact with me. I'm already seeing some come through there. So please ask those questions. We got an hour. I have things I want to talk about, but I bet there's things you guys want to talk about too. So I encourage you guys to ask some of those because I'm not going to be able to talk about every single thing that's out there. So let's talk about what's relevant to you. Let's talk about what's most important to you. And that's why I like to use that Q&A feature. Especially when we get near the end, I power through almost all of them. I try to get to as many of them as possible. So as Gary was saying, if you guys don't know who I am, most of you do. I see a lot of familiar names. My name's Derek Webb. I'm one of the technical trainers here at SnapAV. I've been with SnapAV now 8.5 years. I focus on everything that we train on, right? Wattbox, Luma. Next week, I am running our Control 4 automation programmer class virtually. So I've been doing this for a while now. I love talking about these products. I love giving you guys feedback, interactions, just helping you guys understand so you guys can be more lethal when you're in the field. So one of the things we've been working on over the past year, if you guys joined my arachnist training about a month ago, we talked about this slightly, and that is our new version of PCNA. PCNA stands for Professional Certified Network Administrator. This is our new solution to give you guys not just a networking course, but you can almost say a networking management course. And so PCNA is a 6-part online self-paced training series. It's about 20 hours in total of content that takes you through learning, education, modules that will help you become a better installer when it comes to not just networking, but also Wattbox and OvrC. So and I'm going to play this video here for you guys, because whenever you join or whenever you sign up for PCNA, you get to pick 2 tracks of products, a package track or an arachnist track, but both of those tracks come with Wattbox products to help you leverage that, because networking, cloud management, and power all go hand in hand. So I'm going to play a quick video here for you guys so that you can get an idea of what I'm talking about here at PCNA, because it's easier for me to let my team explain it versus you having to listen to me talk about it.
or PCNA for short, is an award-winning training program created to help technicians design and install better networks. Its 6 fast-paced online courses were designed to be helpful and engaging, and the expertly produced curriculum is valuable no matter which networks you use. But the best part of PCNA? It's hands-on. Each trainee gets to choose between a complete set of Arachnus or packaged networking gear, the equipment they get to keep, so they can continue learning at home even after they're certified. So it's not just theory, it's practice. And the course is a steal. Sign up all your technicians today. Professional Certified Network Administrator.
So obviously the backbone of PCNA is networking based, but a big piece, like I said, is the power side of things. At the end of the day, no matter how much we try and make these foolproof solutions, make these really powerful networks or whatever it may be, sometimes a simple power cycle can solve the issue. It may not solve the issue forever and ever and ever, but at the end of the day, if the client needs a solution right now, a power cycle can fix it. We estimate through tech support that about 80% of tech support calls can be solved with a power cycle. And you guys probably experience similar things, right? And so that's one of the goals of what we really talk about from a network management standpoint, a job management standpoint, the industry of smart devices and the industry that we operate in requires that you have not just a strong network, but the ability to control and manage that network from multiple areas. And power is a big piece of that. So some of the areas that I'm going to kind of talk about today and that I plan to kind of introduce for you guys really is kind of the top 5 things that I really love about the Wattbox platform. Like I said, I've been doing this for 8.5 years now. My first year at SnapAV in 2012 is when we released the original IP Wattbox. When we released the original IP Wattbox, some of you guys, I recognize some old names on here. There was no OvrC. There was no integration with the with this cloud platform. It was all online via a IP address and setting up a dynamic DNS address and things like that. So some of those features that were there are things like auto reboot and scheduled reboots. Those are some of my favorite features that are still there today. I'm going to talk about those. Obviously, OvrC integration is a huge piece. One of the biggest things that we've been working on for the last couple of years is bringing not just options for a to get a Wattbox on every job, but to get Wattbox IP behind every mission critical product, right? One of our oldest kind of marketing strategies, if you will, for Wattbox was if you can get it on every single job, you can solve a ton of your problems. But if you can get a Wattbox behind every mission critical component, man, you can solve a lot of stuff. And so that's one of the things I'm going to talk about there. You see, obviously, Wi-Fi is a big piece of that. And then if we have some time, one of the features I love to kind of introduce and show off a little bit is our UPS integration. It's just another way to add more visibility and control to what's going into your job sites. Myself, I live and breathe this stuff, guys. You can probably see in my camera behind me, I've got stuff all around me. I try to hide some of it from what you guys see when I do these things because it's a lot. Having more visibility for me, it's one of my pet peeves. It's probably going to be the death of me one day. I want to see more. I want to know more. I want to understand more about what's going on in my networks within my own home. And I have the same thing going on with my parents' house, so on and so forth. I can't imagine you guys, but having that visibility, having that ability to at least have some control when you're not there is a big deal. So this is not an OvrC course today, but I'd always like to do a quick reintroduction to the OvrC platform just to update everybody because it is a heavy piece of what Wattbox is. Really today, there is no Wattbox without OvrC. Will it work without OvrC? Yes, but they really go hand in hand. And so for those that don't know, most of you probably do, but for those that don't know, OvrC is our cloud management platform. It's not just a device management tool, but it truly is a customer management platform all built into the cloud. It gives you the ability to manage all of your SnapAV products that we sell and manufacture, as well as the ability to add on third-party products for managing as well. Wattbox is deeply embedded into the OvrC ecosystem. Again, I love to give these updated numbers just for you guys so you guys understand it. we have about 6,000 of you guys interacting with OvrC every single day. That's a crazy number. 6,000 dealers interact with OvrC at any given day. We are at about 340,000 locations around the world. We're still adding about 7,500 a month. And we've actually seen that number trend up significantly over the past year. And we recently eclipsed the 13 million device mark on devices being monitored in the platform. OvrC is continuing to grow. It's going to keep growing, and Wattbox is a huge reason for that growth. Wattbox was the original OvrC product. We developed Wattbox because of what we thought the OvrC platform could be, and vice versa. They were thought of together. Obviously, one came first. So, like I said, it's made up of a few different components. The main thing that we're talking about today is this first one you see here. It's what I call OvrC native integration. It is what you get when you buy a SnapAV product with that nice little OvrC logo on it. You guys, see on my camera there, when you have that nice OvrC logo on it, that's what it means when you have that type of integration into the OvrC platform. It's native integration. You get a subset of features that are unique to that product. On the top end, you're going to get things like, obviously, remote monitoring, notifications when things go on and offline, the ability to manipulate settings on that product, the ability to control the state. So, for example, all of our Wattbox products, you can reboot individual outlets in the cloud remotely with no port forwarding, no network setup, nothing you have to do. You plug your device into the network, and it's ready to go on OvrC. That's a huge piece of the Wattbox ecosystem. Huge. And so that's why I just like to recap that. And then OvrC Home does build a little bit into the Wattbox conversation, because OvrC Home allows you to give some of that remote access control that you guys have access to, and allows you to put some of that into the hands of your customers, right? That customer that calls you every single day, that out there that needs you to reboot something. That's probably, a good opportunity. Maybe you give them their own app to reboot their own devices. And that's what OvrC Home does. It allows you to give your clients a little bit of control as well. And so two pieces there. That's just my quick introduction to OvrC. It's also because I'm going to be using OvrC as the demo portion of today as well. So if you guys didn't know what it was, that would make things a little bit more confusing. So give me a second here. Let's hop into this thing, right? So like I said, Wattbox is the baseline. OvrC was the intro. Wattbox is the meat and potatoes, if you will, of today. Wattbox is a product solution to give you more control over your power on the job site. What a lot of people don't realize is we have an entire lineup of Wattbox products that are not IP enabled. I like to call them just dumb power products, an entire ecosystem of Wattbox products that aren't IP enabled, which is important to understand, because if you guys don't need IP power, you just need some simple power on a job site, we have everything you need there. So we have an entire lineup of just standard surge protectors and power conditioners, standalone dumb UPSs, your simple power cords, outlets with surge protection, rack mountable power supplies. We have power cords galore. I always like to just remind people of that. IP Wattbox is really important, but there's more there if you need more. So it's something to always remember. Obviously, the most important thing, though, what we're talking about today is the IP power side of things. 80% of those truck rolls is solved with a power cycle. If you can put that on a phone, on a tablet, or whatever it may be remotely, that doesn't require any extra setup for you to make that stuff happen, that's valuable. That gives you guys time. I see a couple of guys, saying that Wattbox is my gateway drug. I don't condone any of that stuff, guys, but it really is like that. Wattbox, if you get started in the OvrC ecosystem, you've probably got started with the Wattbox platform. It's such a big deal to help you guys leverage what it can do. Ultimately, the cost of your business, and when I say cost, negative cost, is driven by truck rolls. Every time you roll a truck, you're probably losing money. Every single time. That's no fun, right? That's not the way that you want to do things. If you can mitigate those truck rolls, that's money back in your pocket. That's time back in your day. That's more opportunities that you have to spend on other job sites. If 80% of those truck rolls, using that as a basic number, can be solved with a power cycle, that's a lot of time and money you have back. That's also time and money that you can use to maybe develop some recurring revenue options, develop some service plans where you can get a monthly payment around that type of thing. Those are some of the things that Wattbox really comes into play. So what I want to just do really quickly here is just recap all the Wattboxes that you guys have access to, the different pieces of hardware that you have access to, and where these things might make sense on your job sites. And then we'll jump into those demos as well. So I see a lot of questions coming through here, so please keep submitting those. I'll start to address some of those questions as we transition into the live demo portion of this webinar. So like I said, our kind of new idea, our new phrase, if you will, is a Wattbox to fit any job. Whatever the need is, whatever you need from a power standpoint, we want to give you a power product that's going to work there. As much as possible, that's what we want to be able to provide for you guys. So there is 3 kind of categories I break up our Wattbox products into. Excuse me, IP power strips. On the left-hand side is the first one to understand. The feature sets, when you go through our Wattbox products, they remain very, very similar. It makes the buying process for you much, much easier, right? You're not having to try and figure out, oh, well, do I need to buy this one for that feature set? Oh, well, man, if I need 8 outlets of control, I got to buy this one. We don't want to make it confusing for you. We want to keep it simple in terms of what it is you're looking for from a feature set. So our IP power strips come in 3 different sizes: 6, 12, and 18 outlet versions, all OvrC enabled, all have individual IP control over every single outlet, all offer our self-healing auto reboot, all offer surge protection over each outlet, all offer individual power metering monitoring over each individual outlet. And then as you get to the 12 and 18 outlet models, those also offer isolated filter banks so that you can spread apart some of your high draw devices on those different filter banks. All of that in every single version. That's a big deal. So obviously we have our standard 18 and 12 outlet versions. That 18 and 12 outlet, those are great to mount on the inside of your rack rails. A lot of guys will put those there. If you have a 24-inch deep rack, a lot of dealers will use a lace bar on the side of the rack to mount the Wattbox deeper into the rack on those 24-inch depth racks. This is an example on a 20-inch rack. A lot of integrators, depending on space where that rack is at, will put the Wattbox directly mounted to the back of it. I have my racks sitting in a closet. It's a double door closet. And so I actually have my Wattbox, because I've done a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of moving things in and out. So I unfortunately can never maintain wire management because I have to undo things frequently. So my Wattbox is actually mounted to the wall. We actually send it with clips. You can mount it to the wall. So I have my vertical power strip mounted to the wall directly behind my rack, so I can quickly unplug things, get things in and out, on a little more efficient way. Mounting options in whatever way you need to with our 12 and our 18 outlet model. But probably one of my favorite ones, this is one of our newer Wattbox products, that 6 outlet vertical power strip. This thing is such a problem solver. Again, not just because of the software, but because of the actual hardware as well. This 6 outlet unit is 6 outlets of individual IP control that can be mounted inside your rack, inside a structured wiring can. Some people will fit it into our 14 by 14 Versa boxes. It can be mounted on a desk, but probably my favorite piece is it can be mounted as a 1U standalone Wattbox in the rack. That's a 1U 6 outlet IP power device. That's a big deal. That gives you so much flexibility, so much control wherever you're putting these things. Those 2 right there. The one you see right here on the right-hand side, inside a structured wiring can, or a 1U mount inside of your racks. That's a big deal to give you guys flexibility on those jobs from an install standpoint. So our vertical power strips, they're flexible. They're efficient. They give you tons of options across the board on those job sites and tons of different install scenarios where these things make sense. 6, 12, 18 outlet versions. I'll show you guys what those look like on an interface side here in a second. And then you move into kind of what I call our IP power controllers. similar feature set, OvrC enabled on every single one. Every single one but the 2 outlet offers individual IP control over each device. I'll explain what that means here in a second. All of them still offer self-healing auto reboot. They all offer surge protection with the exception of one. And then most of them, you're also getting all that power metering, monitoring, things like that all across the board. So you'll see a few different options there in terms of size and form factors, 2, 3, 5, and 12 outlet versions. I'm going to start with the 5 and the 12 outlet, right? So the 5 and the 12 outlet, you saw the 12 outlet already in some of those pictures. Our standalone, tried and true, rack mountable 12 outlet Wattbox. This guy is the bread and butter. It was the original, form factor that we released for the Wattbox ecosystem. 12 outlets of individual IP control across the board there that will mount in any orientation in your rack. That's the one thing a lot of people don't realize is that Wattbox can be mounted recessed in the rack. That Wattbox can be mounted, flat facing the rack itself. It can be mounted vertical, pointing with the outlets pointing up. We've had some dealers that will mount the Wattbox at the top of the rack facing down. That's a cool way to get this thing in the rack. Obviously, we have good outlet spacing as well to fit those wall warts in there. That's the 12 outlet. We have our great 5 outlet VersaBox Wattbox. If you guys haven't seen this thing's awesome. Our VersaBox is our in-wall box that fits strategically behind your TVs to get more stuff behind the TVs while maintaining the spacing with the TV mount, so on and so forth. This thing is awesome. More IP power behind the TVs to control more devices. Simple as that. And then the number one problem solver that we have to discuss today, right, is one of the newer Wattbox products as well. Some of you guys may have been using these, but we have our ultra compact series of Wattboxes. We have 2 different versions of this guy. 2 different versions. We have a 2 outlet non-surge protected. That's the one you see here in my hand, and that's the one you see on the screen as well. We also have a version that is still 2 outlets that is also surge protected. It's about 20 to 30% longer than the one you see on the screen now, but it offers surge protection and individual control over those 2 outlets. So the one you see on the screen, that one is a banked control of those 2 outlets with no surge protection. The upgrade gives you surge protection and individual control. The most important thing about these guys, obviously form factor is a big piece, but these are Wi-Fi enabled Wattboxes. If there is a wireless network in that vicinity where you're installing this thing, you can connect it to the network, you can connect it to OvrC. That's a Swiss Army knife. That's a, man, we can fix almost anything out there. Obviously, you see 2 great examples. This is our Razor shelf, our Versa shelf that fits on the back of our TV mounts. And this is inside of our Versa box. We have dealers that use these on standalone surveillance jobs to control the power output for things like power supplies, PoE switches. This is the replacement for your smart outlets on some of those jobs as well. If you guys haven't been doing business with SnapAV for a long time, we are a manufacturer for you. And one of the things we know you guys need are control drivers for your control systems. While yes, Control 4 is a SnapAV brand, it's not the only control system we guys use, and we know that. You have access to control drivers for every single control system out there. And hey, if you don't have if the driver isn't there because you have some random control system, we have an open API we'll provide so you can write your own. This guy's a Swiss Army knife. I believe that dealer costs, these things start between like $70 to $90 dealer cost. If that is all it costs for you to save a truck roll, when most of your truck rolls are $200 on average cost to you, that's money in your pocket right there, guys. I recommend that you carry 4 or 5 of these things on your truck at all times, because if you're rolling to that job site for the 4th or 5th time, you're going to want to be able to fix it. You don't want to have to come back. And so having one of these guys there is a great way to just have something that you can solve a problem really quickly. So that's a big piece of the Wattbox ecosystem, is giving you those form factors, giving you those options that are out there. So that's really where we're at today. I'm going to see if a couple of these questions relate to hardware, and I'm going to start to transition over into the live demo section here. So let me grab a few of these questions right now. Then I'm going to demo a few of these features and settings that's on top of that. So I see a few questions that coming up around failures in the field. You know, I like to be transparent and talk about things that are out there. Unfortunately, I'm not as connected to the support side of the business anymore to say for sure. You know, I know that they have opportunities in the, you know, that where they look at certain things and trends and challenges that may have happened with certain series of Wattboxes. I encourage you to stay in contact with not just the support team, but your sales reps at the local level, and your SnapAV sales reps as well, to make sure that if there was maybe a bad batch that was out there or whatnot. I know that we have tried to be as proactive as possible when those things happen, to make sure that you're interfacing with those guys as well. In the past, we had some challenges there, but we have corrected almost all of those. And I'm saying the past, I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago. We've corrected a lot of those over that time. And we put these things through rigorous quality assurance protocols to make sure that they're coming out of the factories tip-top shape and ready to go for the long haul. So let me check it. I saw a few questions coming in around PC&A as well. So PC&A, I saw some around cost, right? PC&A is a one-time charge per technician. So if you have 12 technicians, you would pay for it for each technician. And then once they pass the class, you are given a rebate essentially for the cost of the course. So half of the cost of the course is what it costs for us to make it and manage it and pay for the proctoring services we use. And the other half of it is the hardware that we send you. You're essentially rebated the cost of the course, and you get to keep the hardware. So that's part of that. So it's a one-time cost per technician. It is not a recurring fee or anything like that. And then I see a couple of questions I need to get an answer on. If you took it once before and you already have the hardware, can you take it again without the hardware? That's a great question. I don't have an answer for you right now, and I need to get an answer for that. So I will make a note to verify that. Maybe I'll have an answer for the we'll have an answer for the session this afternoon. So that's a great question there. So Andrew asked, any plans to add a faceplate to the 800 series? All I can tell you, Andrew, is that stay tuned. If you had the ability to look behind me and turn the corner behind me, I can't say that there's something you would like to see there. I can just say that all I can tell you is stay tuned. And hopefully that gives you a little bit of an opportunity, a hint there. I see a great question from Craig around UI buttons within OvrC Home. I will touch on that when we get into that section. Thanks for asking that, Craig. Let's see here. I'm just checking to see if any other of these questions have the opportunities here. So Frank, do all the power strips come with rack mount hardware? So the 6 outlet comes with hardware to mount it on the physical U spaces in the rack because that's where it fits. The 12 and the 18 outlet come with hardware to mount it vertically in that rack. You'll see there's little clips that come with it. And essentially those clips have a screw hole where you can feed that screw hole through any hole on the rack and then put a nut behind it. So yes, they do all come with the hardware to mount on the rack. It just depends on the size and the rack you're going into. So it's a great question there. And Charles, there's not much of a difference between the strips and the power controllers. The biggest thing that you're going to see is probably individual power metering and power monitoring. I'll show what that looks like here soon in terms of the differences there. Some of our newer products, we've added some of those, kind of more in-depth visibility features and whatnot. That's the biggest thing you're going to see. But for the most part, it's a very similar feature set. All right, so I think most of the questions I'm seeing in here now are going into a lot of the features and seeing some of the setup things. So let's talk about that. And like I said, I'll hop into the UPS side of the ecosystem here in a little bit as well. All right. I'm going to pull up my system on my end here. Let's take a look at some things. So for you guys that haven't seen before, this is the OvrC ecosystem. Adding a Wattbox to your OvrC ecosystem is as simple as clicking add device, putting the MAC address and serial number. If you have OvrC Pro deployed on your job site, it automatically is added right away. Makes your life so much easier. So let's take a look at a Wattbox here. I am going to take a look at my 12 outlet vertical, this is my 12 outlet rack mountable power controller. 12 outlet IPVM, that's our differences there. So IPVM stands for IP voltage mountable, essentially. And then you have IPVPS, which is vertical power strip. This is vertical power management, IPVM, and then you have IPVPS, which is vertical power strip. So this is our 12 outlet rack mountable solution. And the first thing when you see and you come into OvrC is you see all of your outlets available here right away. And we're showing you the orientation of that outlet on the physical Wattbox itself. You're getting control, the ability to turn the outlet on and off, reboot individual outlets, and then the ability to reset all of your outlets at one time. Right away, that's a big deal. That solves you a ton of pain points across the board. If you are sitting in you're looking for more of a mobile interface, I'm going to show you guys a cool little tool here. In Google, I can create a quick mobile experience. If you're on a mobile phone, you're seeing it in a very similar way. The feature sets on OvrC do not change with the device you're accessing it on anymore. That's a big piece of the new version of OvrC. No matter the device you're using, you maintain your feature sets and your control. So if I want to control an outlet, I can click on that outlet and I have control over that outlet individually. That's a huge deal for you guys to maintain just everything you guys need on those job sites. So let's talk about some of these setup features. The first thing I like to point out is you probably see this outlet right here. I cannot turn it off. Why the heck would I do that? What is the reasoning for that? Well, there is an opportunity here where some of those mission critical devices you may never want to turn off, right? What if you accidentally turn off your modem? What if you accidentally turn off your router? You're in trouble. And I wish I had a better way to fix it if you accidentally did that. But unfortunately, the only way to fix it is to plug it in somewhere else that has power. So if you go to the configuration section of your Wattbox and you hop into the outlet options section, you'll see a lot of things here that are important. Obviously, naming your outlets, the ability to set power on delays, which are when the Wattbox turns on, do you want every outlet to come on right away? Do you want them to stage when they come on? For the example of my modem and my router, I probably want my modem to come on right away. 60 seconds later, power on the router so that they come on in a proper sequence. But then we have this outlet mode. Outlet mode allows me to go in and have it just enabled like normal, full control. Disable just turns the outlet off. Dealers joke about it, but they use this to to punish clients who don't pay. I do not condone that, but it is there. And then network device reset only means that you can never turn off that outlet. You can reboot it. You can, if you press the power button on the front of the Wattbox, it'll turn off the other outlets, but it will not turn this outlet off. This is a universal setting. No matter where the power, command comes from, this outlet will never turn off. It can only be rebooted. The only thing that will turn it off is if you unplug power from the physical Wattbox itself. So those mission critical components, the ones you want to make sure you don't accidentally turn off, maybe because somebody forgot to name the outlets when they put the Wattbox on the job site. Maybe you want to make sure that you just, foolproof, make it so you cannot turn those outlets off. That's a mission critical component type of feature. It's just allowing you to have that control across the board there. So I recommend every single job site, you're taking advantage of that feature. You're also taking advantage of your power on delays. Mine are all over the place because I use this for a lot of demos. But take advantage of these features on every single job to have the best practice. Name your outlets. I just didn't even follow my own advice a little bit ago. I was troubleshooting one of my devices that had gone offline, a PoE device, and I move things around so often. I say, hey, you know what? I don't need to name things. And well, I was trying to find where that device was plugged into, and I forgot to change my naming scheme because I move things around too much. And so I spent a while trying to figure out where this thing was plugged into because I didn't follow my own advice. I didn't keep my names consistent. Take advantage of these features when they're there. Just make your life easier at the end of the day. So those are your outlet options. It's a big deal to have those types of controls. Your safe range settings that you see here, these are features you'll see in our newer Wattboxes that are out there. These are not values that affect device performance. These are values that affect notifications. So you're saying that if my Wattbox dips below an incoming voltage of 90 or peaks above an incoming voltage of 136, I want to be alerted. We don't allow you to go in and tweak the functionality of the unit because we want to keep it safe from a breaker perspective. But these are notifications so that you can have a little bit more visibility to inconsistent power on your client's job sites. The same things for your wattage draw on the entire Wattbox, and the same thing for your amperage draw on the entire Wattbox as well. So those are for notifications through OvrC, not for functionality. But here's the first big feature that I really like to discuss here for a minute or two here is auto reboot. Like I said, this was the original killer feature in the Wattbox ecosystem, the original one. The original killer feature in the Wattbox ecosystem was all about auto reboot, allowing you to automatically reboot an outlet depending on network performance, right? Because there is a scenario where if internet goes down, what do you do? If you don't have OvrC because there's no internet, how are you going to reboot those outlets? And so we needed to come up with a way to do that. And again, before OvrC, this was a really important feature, and it still is. And so auto reboot allows you to say that I want to ping a certain group of websites, and if my attempts to ping those, communicate with those websites fails for any period of time, you can define that. I want to reboot my modem, my router, and maybe something else after that at a specific sequence, whenever it happens. And so the way the auto reboots works is just that, is you are specifying websites first. By default, you're going to see Amazon, Yahoo, and Google as the websites we try and ping out of the box. You can put any website you want to out there. I do recommend you use websites that have about a 99.9% uptime, because you don't want to accidentally pick a website like your website potentially. Not to say you guys have bad websites, but you don't want a website to go down, which will affect this performance. So good, strong websites that have a really good uptime are important. You can test them just to make sure things are going well. I'll talk about the local IP addresses here in a second. So you have your website selected. You have your websites picked. Once you have your host in here, you then need to select logic around the outlets and how they're going to reboot. So you go to each individual outlet under outlet options, and you say outlet number 1. We're going to say it's not my left Dell monitor. It is my modem. I want to reboot this outlet when all of the selected hosts in this dropdown over here time out. The other option you see is any. Any means that any of the ones you selected, any of them timeout reboot. You probably don't want to do that because, like I said, what if you have one of those scenarios where a website goes down? You don't need to reboot if a website goes down. So I'm going to say when all of the selected hosts timeout, I'm going to pick those 3 websites, Google, Amazon, Yahoo. When all of those hosts timeout, I want to put this outlet into an auto reboot state. The next thing you have to pay attention to are your timeout settings. what actually defines an auto reboot state? What is that? And that's where we need to go in and we need to state that logic. And so by default, I think what you're going to be at is around 3 minutes is what our default timeout window is. Our timeout window is specified in 2 areas. Your timeout interval, how long does it have to lose communication? So when I say lose communication, right, it literally is if you were to bring up a command prompt in, on your computer and you ping google.com. Each attempt, that reply, that's essentially what that timeout's doing. Is it if we can't, ping that for 5 seconds is my example here. If I can't ping Google, Yahoo, and Amazon for 5 seconds, 5 consecutive times. So what we're saying is that we're going to attempt for 5 seconds. And if we can't, communicate for 5 seconds, that's attempt 1. And so there's the number of timeouts for that to occur as well. So 5 times, 5 seconds each. So in my example here, that's 25 seconds essentially of continuous timeouts. 25 seconds. That's probably a little too sensitive for most job sites. I recommend about 5 minutes is where you probably want to have your auto reboot setting, about 5 minutes. So 5 seconds, 5 consecutive times in my example here, that will put my Wattbox into an auto reboot state and it will reboot those outlets to try and regain a network connection. After the auto reboot occurs, you can set how long do you want to delay before it attempts to ping those websites again. That's important for extended internet outages. And the last thing there is how many times do you want to attempt this auto reboot experience before we just give up, right? Because if internet is out for an entire day, right, you don't want to sit there and reboot your client's devices over and over and over and over again. So you can say that, say, for example, after 5 attempts to auto reboot, I still don't have internet connection. I am going to leave the outlets on until internet connection comes back. Once I can sense internet connection, I will re-enable the auto reboot feature, but not until then. So that's your logic. You're setting first, what is a timeout, interval, number of times. How long do you want to delay after an actual auto reboot occurs? And then how many times you want to try and initiate that reboot before we just give up until internet comes back. It's a simple setting. It's a simple feature to use and to implement, but it's so important to have that on those job sites, especially, it may not make sense for every customer, but those ones where the truck roll is about 2 hours one way, you don't want to just make that truck roll because you got to power cycle the customer's modem and the router again. Like, just don't do that. That's just not worth your time. Using this as a great example, a great way to leverage the power of these things. And the flip side, another thing you can do is you can also use auto reboot to monitor the status of devices on your network. So I have 2 here, a Wi-Fi camera and a Control 4 processor as an example. My Control 4 processor is being powered via AC power. My Wi-Fi camera is plugged in to a Wi-Fi enabled Wattbox so I can control it appropriately. And so I can say that I want to ping an individual outlet. So I can say that when any of the selected hosts time out, and I'm just going to pick my Wi-Fi cam. So I'm saying that when my Wi-Fi cam times out, which means that I can no longer ping that IP address, I only want to reboot that outlet. So this is a great way to deploy these little guys all across your job sites and put individual logic on auto reboots for those as well. Think about that, dang DirecTV box that loves to lock up behind your TVs and you got to always reboot it. Or that dang Apple TV is locked up again. And everything is fixed with an auto reboot. All you do is power cycle it and it's fixed. And you're tired of your customer calling you and telling you they tried to unplug it and they can't figure out how to plug it back in. Get that out of the scenario. You can put a simple auto reboot on there. Now, that does require that the lockup is a network lockup and not just the device freaking out. But that's how you can take advantage of it for local IP addresses. You should never use a local IP address to do an auto reboot for the entire network, because there's a good chance your local network will stay functional during an internet outage. Only use local IP addresses for auto reboots when it's a one-to-one relationship. If I lose communication with this IP address, it's going to reboot just the device associated with this IP address. But two ways you can really take advantage of the auto reboot scenario and experience in the Wattbox ecosystem. So to that end, last thing I want to kind of show is a demo, and then I'll take some time to get to some of these questions because you guys are killing it with questions. I like it. Is if you do want to give your client some of that control, because that was one of the early questions I saw with OvrC Home. You do want to give your client some of that control. OvrC Home is our ability to do that. OvrC Home is our end user facing version of OvrC, where you give your client back some of that control. And so the way OvrC Home works is you go to the clients and services section, the client services section in your OvrC account for that client. You invite your customers to the OvrC Home app. When you click add user, you put in their email address, their original password. They can change it after the fact, and they get an invite to download the OvrC Home app. You can then create these commands that will show up for them on those job sites. These commands are going to be unique and unique and significant to what they're trying to do. So I'm going to pull up my little OvrC Home view as well, just to kind of give you an idea. So right now, if I'm on an iPhone, that screen is going to look like this, right? I have my OvrC Home app right there. I have those buttons that I can see. And then when I go to create more OvrC Home commands, all you have to do is create add command. I saw a question come through. Do I recommend recommendations on icons? So what I recommend is, we have these predefined icons. Do ones that make sense. The most common is this little power cycle command, but if that doesn't make sense, maybe you have a internet fix icon. That Wi-Fi icon is a great example. And, I like to be funny, right? But, the cool thing here is that you can create this icon while you're on the phone with a customer, and it'll pop up on their phones almost immediately if they already have OvrC Home downloaded. So I tell guys, hey, I'm going to do this thing for you. I want you to pull up your phone. You're going to see a icon on your phone in your OvrC Home app that says, stop calling me. Because next time you think that you need to call me to fix something, I want you to pull up the app and press the button that says, stop calling me, because I'm giving you the control to fix it yourself. That might be a little bit harsh. We're going to call it Fix TV, because this is going to reboot my Apple TV. So I have a little TV icon around it. And then you come through and you add your devices to this ecosystem. And so my first device I'm going to select is that Wattbox we mentioned before. I have my IPW, that's this guy here, my little 2-outlet Wattbox, the banked control. I'm just going to tell it I want it to reset the outlets on this device. Simple as that. That's all it's going to do. It's a simple button that all it does. I'm not going to do anything else extra to it. And then I can say that after they press that button, do I want to put a delay on when the customer can press it again? I recommend you put a decent delay on there. You don't want the customer just to sit there over and over again. Reboot. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? Put a little delay on there so they can't go through and fix it again. It'll gray out the button so that they can see it as well. It makes it a big use case for you there. So and then it's there. So let me show you. Fix TV. Actually, I'm going to call this Fix Apple TV because I already have a Fix TV icon. Fix Apple TV. I am going to save it. If I come back into my OvrC Home app, look at that. It's already there. That's how quickly you can provide these things for your clients. If you guys have Wattbox IP on your job sites today, you can give them this feature right now. It's there. If you charge them for that feature and they quit paying you, you can turn it off. I turned it off. I bring out my OvrC Home app again, and look, I have no more control. I recommend that every single one of your clients, regardless of you giving them any remote access, remote reboot commands, regardless of that, you at least give them the OvrC Home app. At least give them the OvrC Home app. You don't have to give them any control, but it's going to put your contact information, it's going to put your phone number, give them access to email you as well. And then when they're ready to get control, all you have to do is go in here, create a command, and give it to them. So I saw a couple of questions and requests already, for the OvrC Home side of things. There's definitely things we're working on to improve this experience. We do have this activity log here that does show you in OvrC if your clients are using this. It's a great way to just get some visibility to what your clients are doing. This will not notify you if they do use it. You'll get a notification if things go online and offline, or if they're rebooting things. But we do not see notifications based off your clients doing things today. That's a great suggestion that I believe the team's working on, but I'll make sure I put a note to bring that up again, because it makes perfect sense that you guys will want to know if they're using it on the fly, not after the fact. So let me make a nice little note here. And so since we're coming down here to the edge of our time, I want to go through here and grab some of these questions that are coming through as well, because I see some good questions that are here, and make sure that we cover a few of these on top of that. I saw a question that came through around placement of the outlets. It was an anonymous attendee, so I can't answer it, directly to you. I would like a little more understanding on where it may be there. So if you want to shoot me an email or something like that after the fact, or reach out to Gary, I'd like to help you dig into that a little bit more as well. I'm just looking at some of these that are coming through here. So I saw another question around what Wattbox devices fit what rack. I don't have that off the top of my head. I feel like that our website probably says it. I'll verify, but I would say that, the 18 outlet is going to fit on a 32U and above rack. The 12 outlet will fit on your, 32U and below, probably topping out at about a 12. That's why you probably an 18U is probably your smallest you can fit. And then the 6 outlet will fit vertically on most every rack, and then it'll fit horizontally on any rack as well, mounted in your U spaces there. But I believe we may have something on the website that specifies that. Let's see here. So great question. Bill asked, because I always like to make sure I cover this. The two mentioned, do they require OvrC Hub? No, that is one of the values of the Wattbox ecosystem, guys, is that when you buy Wattbox, it comes with OvrC embedded. It comes with OvrC embedded in them. There's no need for you to have an OvrC Pro Hub on that job site. OvrC Pro Hubs do not add any extra functionality to the Wattbox. It will make adding them to your OvrC accounts easier, but it does not provide any extra functionality for you, and you do not need it to deploy. We have customers that deploy hundreds and thousands of Wattboxes that have never bought an OvrC Pro device, and that is completely okay. So Wes, I may have covered this earlier. We do have over and under voltage protection within our products. Fuses built into them, as well as breakers that you can trip to make sure that you save things. And obviously, if there is a surge event, that's what the surge protection is for on that piece as well. Yeah, so Andre's asking any updates for the interface. So the interface is the same across the board. So that's part of what we've been working on, right? So some of you guys that have been using our vertical power strips, or using our new mini Wattbox unit, or using the newest 12 outlet, you'll see that's a little bit different UI. And the goal is, we're updating everything over time to do that. And so you'll see that new UI on things like our 5 outlet and our standalone 3 outlets when we have some new hardware to go with that. It is a new chipset that, from a computer standpoint, if you will. And the cool thing is that UI that you see, the new UI, that's completely built in-house. We actually build that user interface and we build the functionality all in-house for that product. That's a big deal for us to be able to talk about that. So there's definitely goals to roll those into each other over time. And I saw a question around the control 4 driver being the same. They're very similar, if not the same now. So if you're seeing differences, I would like to know specifically. I think we did some work recently to release a new driver that brought that control 4 experience pretty much the same across the board. So that you're not having to manually create bindings anymore. We can do that automatically. And that should function for each unit, regardless of the series that's out there. Let's take a look at some more of these questions that we see here. And Gary, feel free to chime in, if you have anything you want to add as well.
Well, I'm following you. And JD had that question right after that one about the software there. And, being able to install onto the servers when the battery gets down, and it will start to shut down the process. I think that should be happening anyway, but I don't know what software update he was at.
I know what he's asking for. I don't have an answer for you, JD, on if that's a path we're looking, to get into. That's definitely in the commercial realm, right? That you look at from a power perspective. I know it's a goal of SnapAV as a whole to get more into that realm, and that's something that would make sense in that place. So nothing today that we have to assist in that type of experience, but it completely is valuable. There's nothing today that we have, and nothing that I know of from a feature standpoint. Sean, I saw a great question come through around just some challenges you've had from the Wi-Fi version. Yeah. If you would love to reach out to me, I can, maybe I can give you some pointers, some tips and tricks. I can sync you up with one of our support guys to figure that out, because it's not something that I've heard. Usually the Wi-Fi one, the most often when it struggles is if it's just in a really bad Wi-Fi area. I would, that's really where we see most of the challenges. So if you want to reach out to me, reach out to Gary, we can figure something out there and see what we can, get figured out from that standpoint. So I didn't talk about our UPS that much within the discussion here, guys. Our OvrC UPS is paired with a Wattbox. So the way it would work is if you have a 12 outlet Wattbox, you buy our OvrC UPS, you connect power from the UPS to the input of the Wattbox, and you connect a data connection from the UPS to the data connection for the UPS on the Wattbox. Once you make those connections, the UPS essentially becomes the battery for the Wattbox. And so you have any number of outlets available on that actual Wattbox to get battery backup from the UPS. You probably don't need all 12 battery backed up. And so you can tell it to remove certain outlets from the battery backup. So if it does kick into battery backup mode, it only focuses on, outlets 1 through 4 or whatever it may be. And you can also set intelligent load shedding across the board. So as the battery level dips, you can turn off specific outlets over time as well. 75, 50%, 25%, and 0% battery levels. So literally it's just making a connection. You buy the UPS, you buy the Wattbox, and they pair together. That is only available on our 3 outlet and above. So our 2 outlets that you see here, they don't have the UPS link option. 3 outlets and above give you the UPS link option. It's a super easy thing to bring into the fold there. And again, it's another example of getting more visibility to what's going on. I've had so many dealers that freak out when they put a battery on those job sites and then they bring in OvrC. You get so much info on the power going up and down, getting dips in that power, the battery having to kick in because your voltage dropped below 100, and how to use the boost feature. It's pretty crazy what you'll start to see when you deploy those guys out there.
Corbin had that question about the three-port Watt boxes seem to be the oldest unit. Is there a refresh coming, or does it already, or do the newer units already have the hardware that the other newer units do?
So I don't know of a refresh specifically for that one. There could be, but I don't know for sure. The 3-port is probably the oldest unit that we have. All the features that I've showed you today are still fully supported on that 3-port. So there's no concern over that. A lot of dealers have transitioned to these guys over the 3-port. If you don't need all 3 ports, you'll still get 2, especially if you get the version with surge protection. It still has a direct Ethernet connection as well. So a lot of integrators have moved to these over the 3 ports. It just depends on what fits for your job. But the auto reboot feature, the scheduling, the OvrC Home stuff, that all still works on that 3-port. So there's no concern over you losing out on some of those features that you see there. Sean, I hear you on the ability for OvrC Home to turn a device on and off. I know that is something the team is working on from a logic standpoint. I agree 100% that that is important for OvrC Home. What I will say is that if you a workaround temporarily today is using your control system to provide that ability, but it's something that we're definitely working on it from an internal standpoint within the OvrC Home ecosystem, is to toggle, not just reset power. So it's a great question. I think I saw a few more questions that came in that were very similar to that one. Let's see here. I'm going through. You guys have powered through these things here at the end. It's a bunch. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to get to them all, Gary.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep going, but there's no way I'm going to be able to get to them all.
You know, we don't have a hard stop though, Derek. I'm live. Seriously, guys, let's get these questions answered as long as you can. I got to hop off on a meeting myself in about 15 minutes, but you guys, let's continue to ask these. I mean, there's some critical, you see the one about from John regarding Wattbox is the feature that we feel is lacking the most is voltage regulation. You covered that in the battery thing, but other companies have high voltage or have voltage regulation built in. And this is a feature, at least in my company, that I could use more of your products in this feature. That's a critical analysis. What do you think?
I agree. What I can tell you, John, is that is a feature that you see usually in a little bit of a higher end surge protector. And it's a great feature to have. And it's one that we are definitely interested in. It would be a new hardware feature for sure, for us to, kind of bring into the fold. And it's an area that we are definitely interested in. If I had to guess, you probably are deploying things from probably like SurgeX or Furman, that have those types of features. We know that. We know that a lot of our dealers put those into their job sites first, and then we'll put Watt boxes down the line. So we're very aware of that. And I would say that there is a consensus within a few different people, even in the Wattbox team as well. So it's definitely something we are trying to understand and look at, and get that thing into the mix as well. So great question. I appreciate that. Corbin, there is a notification when auto reboot occurs. So you will know if an auto reboot happened. You will see your outlets go online and offline. Obviously, you're going to get that information from OvrC specifically. But yes, you will see when those devices power on and off on your system. So great question. Jason's asking one of the most fun OvrC questions. There's a way to update all firmware on a job site at once. Unfortunately, Jason, there is not an update all option today. I believe that's one of those roadmap items the OvrC team has that they're looking for, is to bring in that update all option, or for you to kind of select which ones you want to update.
Yeah.
For you guys that have OvrC feedback, a lot of you don't realize this little question mark that you see here on OvrC now. If you click that question mark, it takes you into our new OvrC kind of forum, if you will. But this is where you can, go in and create a post around features that you want to see, or things aren't working the way that you want to. This does not go to tech support. So if you're having issues right now, do not use this to get your problem solved right now. if there's that itch that you keep having that you want to see corrected or you want to see that feature, this is where I recommend you guys put that information, right? Here's a fun one. Search by MAC address. You'll see that we have our own team that are in here and they're interacting with this, and other dealers are in here giving feedback as well. This is available to all of you guys, that little question mark. You see one here as well, scheduled firmware updates. And we have it sitting here, says it's on our roadmap. We're interacting with you guys. So I encourage, if you have those overseas type scenarios there, take advantage of this tool. It's there. It works for you guys. And it's a great way for you to interact with our team. But if you need support like issues, please use our tech support team. Steve, you always like to come in with the great suggestions. Auto reboot on things other than a Wattbox, and so that's definitely a roadmap item globally for us, right? Is to create dependencies within the OvrC ecosystem that aren't just device specific. So, right, is that if we saw a timeout, we could apply that timeout to anything on the job site. So that's a great point, Steve, and I agree wholeheartedly. I know that's something that we're looking at as a group to bring that as well. You know, Steve always coming in hot with the logic. I always appreciate it, Steve. So David, yeah, it's a great question. It's not off topic. It's a little on topic. Any plans for online UPS versus our current line interactive? Kind of goes back to my previous discussion a little bit, right, where we were talking about, moving into a different realm of solutions. Online UPSs aren't cheap, and you guys know that, right? I know they're coming down in price over the years, but a really good online UPS is expensive, and for the most part, they really make sense in a realm where that isn't really usable in most homes. Online UPS is typically were important for the medical space and things like that, but they are becoming a little bit more important as people are starting to work from home more often, and they need consistent access no matter what, especially in areas of the country where you're having these rolling blackouts and things like that, where you need to make sure that when I go to battery, I don't lose anything. So yeah, there's an opportunity there. It's something we're definitely looking at as we start to move into some newer markets and ecosystems. And as you guys asked about these third-party products, there's a reason that we're also using OvrC Pro to enable a lot of third-party product integration as well. So that wasn't what we talked about today, but OvrC Pro is a great way for you guys to go in and enable access to third-party solutions like APC, like SurgeX. We give you guys great interaction with those to get visibility to their statuses and even control some things on those things, including things like Panamax. So make sure that if you are using third-party products for your power and other certain scenarios, you're deploying OvrC Pro to at least get some visibility all inside the OvrC ecosystem. So Eric, your question around the being able to talk intelligently to other devices when you're going into a shutdown mode. Unfortunately, today we don't have any logic that allows us to do that, but it's a great example of some things that we want to work towards. Where you can plug a UPS into a device via a USB cable to do that. That's kind of the old school way that UPS has worked. We would love to get to a better solution where it doesn't require a UPS cable. Or a USB cable, excuse me. It's just, it can be done via, a IP address or whatever it may be there. So it's a great example. Unfortunately, there's nothing we have to offer today. I see another thing coming in about the Control 4 driver. I'm gonna make a note here, guys, to check into that, because I had thought that we corrected all that and all the drivers were the same for each device. But let me check and make sure before I make a fool of myself, because that's what Derek doesn't want to do, is make a fool of himself. I don't like to give you guys the wrong answers. I like to give you the right one, or at least try and check into things as well. Patrick, what I will say, in terms of taking over some OvrC accounts, your solution today that you are doing with the OvrC Hub is the best way to do it right now. That is the best way to do it right now. We are working on a better global solution. If you're familiar with Control 4 and how Control 4 handles similar scenarios, we are working towards a global solution very similar to that. The ultimate goal is to protect you as the integrator. That is one of our biggest goals. The OvrC Pro Hub is the best way to do that if there is no consent from all parties that we can verify. That's the biggest thing that we talk about there. Ron, in terms of satellite internet, at the end of the day, that's where you want to make sure that you're doing your proper testing, right? So maybe if on most of your job sites, your standard auto reboot timeout is 3 minutes, maybe you want to go to 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes on those job sites with satellite internet, because it's always going to be a little bit inconsistent. You want to give yourself that buffer because things can always be a little bit inconsistent that you have out there. So satellite internet has come a long way from where it has been in the past. So I recommend that, just that you give yourself that buffer on some of those jobs where that comes into play. So Sean, I see your question about the UPS. Maybe I answered it a little bit ago. But the reason that you'll see the UPS version or the OvrC version of our UPS with a single outlet is because that is only intended to be paired with an actual Wattbox with that UPS link. That single power outlet comes out of the UPS with an IEC cord and plugs into the power input of the Wattbox. And so all the outlets on the Wattbox now become a part of the UPS. That's why there's only a single outlet, because we don't need the other outlets on there. We only need the outlets on the Wattbox, and the Wattbox needs to get power from the UPS. Let's see here. We're catching up. I think I'm getting some nice help from my my friend Shane here, who's on the call as well.
Oh, that's Shane, not Derek Webb. Okay, good. Good to have you, Shane. Thank you, buddy.
He was using my link to log in, so he's incognito.
No problem. Good to see you, Gary.
Oh, there he is. Another expert, guys.
I'm not that good. I promise you. I'm not that good, guys, to be able to sit here and talk about these things and answer. I don't know if I saw a heat option. I saw someone said they saw a heat option in my demo. I'm not sure where did I have heat somewhere in here? I don't want to go look for it because you guys might see something you're not supposed to see. So I'm gonna try and remember here for a second if I had heat somewhere in my demo. I don't think I did. That's something we'd love to see some more of. Is being able to control heat.
But Kyle said heat. Should I say heat settings?
I don't know where I had heat settings. Maybe you saw host settings. I'll hold off on that. I'll see if I can remember what.
All right,
you
Kyle,
may have saw.
Hit us back if you saw something, and we'll get with you.
So Jason, you're getting into a realm of straight up control systems and entry-level control systems where you want a pop-up that tells you to go do something. I think there's opportunities there with OvrC Home to maybe expand on what we're telling the customers. But our goal is to create a defined line between what OvrC Home can do and what a control system can do, specifically. But I see where you're coming from. If they power off the control, if they, you created a power off command, you want something that tells them, hey, you need to go power this back on. I completely see where it's making sense. Sean, OvrC Home does require an internet connection, even if they are on the local job site, because it is communicating with our OvrC servers. It does require an internet connection to function. Our hopes are one day we can remove that barrier, but today it does require internet connection for it to function because those commands do live in the cloud. It's a great question. Okay, it was host settings on my screen. My screen was a little blurry. Okay, sorry for the blurriness. I thought you saw something that I didn't know about, which that would have been, fun for me. So I think we're about caught up here, Gary. Not
Yeah,
too bad.
that was great. And Shane, thanks for helping us out. Our expert Shane Larson there. Derek Webb, thank you as always, gentlemen. We're gonna do this in 4 more hours. So let's get back to it. Everybody on this call, I did record this call. I'll send it back to you guys so you can reference these questions and the slide deck specifically and Derek's presentation. Derek, we're going to do something a little bit different at 4 o'clock or at 5 p.m. East Coast, 2 p.m. West Coast. Yeah,
I'm going to have my colleague Jacob give you guys his perspective on the Wattbox ecosystem. The content's the same, the theory is the same. Jacob may have some different examples, some different experiences that he has used it with. Yeah. And if you guys want to come back this afternoon, Jacob has been teaching Control 4 to you guys for 10 years now. So he is a Control 4 expert as well as a Wattbox expert. I'm pretty good at Control 4, but I've got nothing on Jacob. So if you guys want to come back and get some in-depth Control 4 questions related to Wattbox, he is a great resource for that as well. All right, excellent. All right, guys, I'm going to tidy all this stuff up, render the video, and come back in 4 more hours with a little bit of an assorted panel. Will you be with us, though, Derek, or no? Oh, of course. Okay, great. Fantastic. Okay, guys, and we're going to continue this conversation. And I know I always, you know what, Shane, as you and I kind of head up discussing what could be next, you know, the OvrC third-party integration, we could go a lot deeper there. Perhaps we bring some of that up and get our next class for next month going.
Sounds great. I like the idea.
All right, guys. I'm Gary from Volutone. Thank you so much from all the SnapAV local stores. You guys are truly making this happen. You guys are truly making that experience something that the whole entire country is talking about. We are expanding. So from all of us, from AllNet, from Custom Plus, from MRI, and from Volutone, we appreciate only here can you get this type of direct question and answering, direct contact with our stores and our experts that are on the front lines as well. So guys, I cannot thank you enough. Derek, thank you. Shane, thank you guys. We'll see you in 4 hours. Look for my email. Continue to have a safe practice out there, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, everyone.